In less than 6 months, Ethiopians will go to the polls in one of the most closely watched elections on the African continent. Analysts say that these elections would be the first time since 2005 that Ethiopians engage in a genuinely competitive electoral process. But even that is not enough to assuage concerns that the process will be affected by the prevailing ethnic tensions in Africa's second most populous nation. But despite this polarization, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed believes that the country is ready for the elections. He recently assured Parliament that, quote, democracy needs exercise, and if we say we can't hold elections now, it will bring a lot of problems. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, the 2019 Nobel Prize winner, assumed office in February of 2018. He embarked on some bold reforms, including opening the political space in the country, releasing political prisoners, and allowing the return of formerly exiled political figures. He will be running in a crowded field of candidates that include Jawar Mohammed, Berhanu Nega, and many others. Jawar Mohammed is an influential Oromo activist and media mogul. He was a vocal critic of the past regime and one of the prominent voices whose work in exile is credited for the pressure that led to the fall of the APDRF government. Jawar, who recently declared intentions to run in the upcoming elections, says that Ethiopians are ready to move past the transitional phase.
Because we fought for democracy, we fought for transition to a peaceful democratic country. And we feel that the transition is not going as well as we wanted it to be. And the election is very, very important to bring back the transition onto the track, as well as to ensure the people who brought down the dictatorship get the chance to elect their own government and live their dream at least once in their life.
Even though Jawar continues to command support among his people, he remains a polarizing figure in local politics. His critics accuse him of using his vast social media platforms to stoke tensions in the country. They point to a recent incident in October of this year when he posted on his Facebook a claim that local authorities were planning to pull security that was guarding his home. Responding to this post, Jawar's supporters, mainly in the Oromia region, took to the streets, protesting what they said was an assassination attempt on his life. The ensuing ethnic violence led to the death of 86 people. Jawar denies the accusation. He says that the Facebook post was meant to call attention to his security situation.
It really surprises me that people will say, why did you announce? What should I have done? My first act was to call the police commanders who are in charge of my security. They reaffirmed the order. Then it was to call the military generals. It was to call the security chiefs. It was to call the Minister of Defense. It was to call the Prime Minister's office. Some were not responsive. I don't want to name names. Some were just as shocked as I am and were not able to help. So it was complete state of confusion where nobody was taking responsibility. Nobody was willing to stop. And I had to, for my own life and for the safety of the security, and I live with family. And I live in the middle of a residential area. And a military engagement. The guys in my compound are heavily armed. The guys who are coming from different angles, who were taking different orders, were heavily armed. I had to act to deter a confrontation between these forces and to avoid bloodshed.
Shortly after the incident, the Commissioner General of the Ethiopian Federal Police commissioned Ndeshau Tassel in a press conference denied that authorities were taking actions against Jawar. Commissioner Teshau added that based on security assessment, police was lifting security for private individuals across the country that was put in place for activists and political organizations who had returned during the country's transitional period. Analysts say that as Ethiopians prepare for elections, new political freedoms have emboldened local leaders to mobilize political support based on their ethnic power bases. That, they won, could be a harbinger for conflict in a country with over 80 different ethnic groups. Jawar, a strong supporter of ethnic federalism, says that he has no plans to change his platform.
I got into politics to fight for the Oromo people, for equality, for their dignity. But the Oromo freedom does not come as exclusive to others. The Oromos cannot have a freedom or democracy where their neighbors, the other ethnicities who live in the country, are excluded from this. There are going to be people who strongly oppose my view. I'm not worried about that. I believe what is good for Oromo is good for Ethiopia. What's good for Ethiopia is good for Oromo. When I was fighting against the TPLF regime, these same accusations and suspicions were coming. Yes, we brought down TPLF, but the resulting opening of the political sphere, the democratization process, did it just benefit the Oromos or did it benefit the rest of the country? It did benefit everybody. Was it just the Oromo political prisoners who were released? No, everyone got released.
Observers of Ethiopian politics say that one of the most critical debates will be on Article 39 of the Ethiopian Constitution, a provision which grants people the right to self-determination. One of its main critics is Professor Berhanu Nega, a respected veteran of Ethiopian politics.
These ethnic cleavages have been the policy of the state, the policy of the government. I think probably Ethiopia is the only country where the government itself is established and promotes ethnicity as the base of our political identity, which of course many countries, as you know, in Africa steer clear from this because they know that this kind of politics can lead to this significant conflict between communities. And that's what we have observed. I mean, for 27 years, Ethiopians were told that their primary identity is their ethnicity. This is a country where you cannot put on your ID card when you are asked what your identity is. You cannot even say you are an Ethiopian. You have to say you are a particular ethnic group. So what we are hoping is that enough lesson is learned by the public to the effect that ethnic politics is not a politics that would lead you towards stability and prosperity over the long run. And therefore people would start to see that the way to go is to organize our politics on the basis of this common identity that we have, which is a citizenship of this particular political community.
After spending years in exile, the former mayor-elect of Addis Ababa returned home last year. He now leads a coalition of 7 political parties that merged into the Ethiopian Citizens for Social Justice Party. His coalition will be running on a platform of a shared national identity.
We are committed to democratic politics on the basis of citizenship rather than on the basis of ethnicity. We don't believe that politics should be tied to ethnicity. It should be tied to something that is common to all of us, which is our citizenship to this particular political community. The second that guides our policy on different issues is what we call social justice. Our purpose, and the purpose of a government in a country such as Ethiopia, where there are a lot of poor people, is to make sure that it has policies that would bring the poor out of poverty, that would provide a decent living, a decent education and health care for the larger population. So we have a commitment to ensuring or establishing social justice as our end result in the process of political contestations.
As Ethiopians prepare for what may be one of the most important elections in a generation, they are faced with a stark choice: to go with Berhanu Nega's platform of a shared national identity, some of which have said is in many ways similar to that of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's Medema political philosophy, or whether they will go with those advocating for ethnic federalism. But whatever choice they will make will very much depend on a peaceful country, and for now, achieving that will require all parties to adhere to a code of conduct signed by all political parties in March of this year. For Voice of America, I'm Jackson Vunganyi.